Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Transitions, getting from here to there to somewhere else, our next revision strategy. So, revision strategy review, and is something to think in mind, or to keep in your thoughts, is that these revision strategies are not just for rewriting. Incorporate these strategies as you write. It'll make you a better writer, a more sophisticated writer, and that's ultimately our goal. So use sentence patterns as you compose, as you write. They add variety, complexity. Proofread, even as you compose. Get those errors cleaned up as you're writing so you don't miss them later and get in trouble for that. And use details. They add depth to your writing, which is really important. And they add credibility to your writing, whether you're writing an argumentative or a creative piece. The more detailed you can be, the better. And then lastly, and this goes along with details very closely, is word choice. Making sure you're being clear and specific with what you're writing. Alrighty, so for this particular revision strategy rather, we need to review a couple of sentence patterns and make sure we have them down pat. First is coordinating conjunctions, and those are the fanboys. With the Oscars coming up, I was so angry I lost my Oscar pool, comma, so I punched my neighbor in the esophagus, right? Both of these are simple sentences. I was angry, I lost my Oscar pool. That can stand on its own as a sentence. I punched my neighbor in the esophagus. Again, can stand on its own as a sentence. But we're using these coordinating conjunctions, and these are the only coordinating conjunctions that exist, to separate them, and we put a comma before that. So that one we remember. And then of course we remember conjunctive adverbs. This is where we have a simple sentence, a semicolon, conjunctive adverb, comma, and then another simple sentence. And I actually have a super simple sentence, or a super sentence pattern here rather. At 10 a.m., introduction, comma, Paul was supposed to be taking his biology midterm, semicolon, conjunctive adverb instead, comma, he was flirting with a pretty waitress at the coffee house. Shame on Paul. Right? But again, simple sentences. They could stand on their own, but we are combining them. Okay. So to get... Oh, and it's also possible to use a conjunctive adverb as an introduction, right? Paul's flirting was supremely subpar, period. However, he was relentless in his pursuit of the pretty girl. Right? So... Transitions. Transitions work to connect ideas within our writing. They're a way to get from idea A to idea B. And there are different types of transitions. They're going to have a different function. And so I have the different types of transitions coming up here and an example of each. Right? And these types are going to be helpful to think about as you're writing to connect your ideas to each other. And to make your whole argument flow and make sense. So know these different types of transitions, and for practice, come up with another transition word or phrase that could work. For example, for a similarity transition, similarly. Mike is cool. Similarly, I am cool. Right? That's pretty straightforward. Exception or a contrast, kind of an opposite. Time, something's earlier, later is another one. Maybe you can use that. An example or a specific detail. If you want to add emphasis to something. If you want to show something cause and effect. And additional support or evidence. So all those different types. And we're going to go over each of those different types. Hopefully you've taken a moment here to come up with additional words or phrases. If you have not, this slide will be useful to you. Here's a chart which you should know, or at least have a great deal of familiarity with, because this is not an all-inclusive list, but it is a great deal of transition words that will help you in your writing. So know these, cherish these, come back to this slide later if you need to. So, banned, forbidden, foreboding. You may not use the following transitions ever again. In conclusion, first, second, third, So let me explain why you can't use these. These are great transitions for elementary writing and for speeches for that matter. But what we are aiming for is going beyond elementary writing. We want a more sophisticated style. And while these are good placeholders and good introductory tools, we want to move beyond that into more sophisticated, more exciting writing. So move beyond these transitional crutches into some of the more exciting ones. So for practice, one of the things you have to know with transitions is know the relationship and know the connection between the ideas. We've talked a lot about the relationships between words, between sentences, between ideas. Now we're going to find out which one they are. Here again are all the types of transitions. And I'm going to show you two sentences, and I want you to write down which type of transition it is. For example, many have taken issue with what they see on TV. The Federal Communications Commission ought to consider more carefully regulating what types of violence they allow on the air. What type of transition is this? This is a cause and effect. And one way to recognize cause and effect is you can throw a because in front of the first half. Because many people have taken issue, the FCC ought to consider more. Right? And these answers I have, they're not tried and true. They're not locked in. Some of these sentence pairs can have multiple different transition types, and that's okay. Another example here. I love eating cheap pizza while watching the Oscars. Celebrities prefer dressing in expensive gowns and giving each other awards. Which type of transition is this? This is an exception contrast, of course. Why like this and they like that? It's a difference. What about he slept through class again? He didn't even wake when the bell rang. This is an example of emphasis. Or you could say that's an example, or you could say it's additional support or evidence. All of those work. Here we go. This weekend, I hustled up the Hancock to raise money for lung cancer. My legs feel like they want to fall off. What type of transition is this? This is time, because today or after the fact. And also it's cause and effect, because I hustled up the Hancock. My legs feel like this. All right, here we go. Peter, Paul, and Mary love playing acoustic instruments. They love sitting in circles and talking about their feelings. Peter, Paul, and Mary transitioning to sitting in circles. What do we got? Similarity. They like this. They also like this. It's the same thing. All right, dogs are known as a man's best friend. Hugo, the dog from the commercials, has been trained to bring a drink to its owner. This is an example of a dog who is a man's best friend. Hugo is. All right, so it's practice time. Here's what I would like you to do. On a separate sheet of paper, or on your note sheet, I don't know if it's going to do that, but what I want you to do is choose one of the following topics to write about, or choose your own, that's fine, and write a paragraph using 5 of the different transition types. So go back to that chart with all the different transitions, if you need, and be sure to label each transition type you use. So here's some topics I was just thinking about. You could write about dangerous face water. You could write about puppies, superheroes, unicorn athletes, angry buffaloes, or frankly, anything that you want. Use and label 5 different transition types in your paragraph, or multiple paragraphs. You want to write multiple paragraphs. And that's what I got for you today. Happy transitioning.